77 years ago, the United States took part in a massive naval battle against the Imperial Japanese forces. The battle took place near a small atoll in the Pacific named Midway. Through meticulous planning, guile, and fighting spirit, and exceptional bravery, American sailors, Marines, and soldiers would win a dramatic victory that would prove to be the turning point in the war in the Pacific. The Battle of Midway was one of the most decisive battles of World War II. Every year, we remember the service members that took part in this epic battle. 6 months after the attack on Pearl Harbor, a fleet engagement between the United States and Japan was inevitable. The Japanese Navy was looking to sink the American aircraft carriers that escaped destruction at Pearl Harbor and deliver another significant blow to the United States Pacific Fleet. However, thanks to an intelligence breakthrough, the solving of the Japanese fleet codes, the Pacific Fleet, commanded by Admiral Chester Nimitz, was able to surprise the Japanese fleet at Midway Island. On June 4, 1942, American scout planes located the Japanese fleet. Over the next 2 days, the US troops at sea and at Midway continued their attacks, forcing the Japanese to abandon the battle and retreat. The Japanese lost almost 3,000 men, 4 carriers, 1 cruiser, and hundreds of aircraft, while the United States lost about 360 men, 1 carrier, 1 destroyer, and 144 aircraft. It was here at Naval Air Station Pensacola where aviators were trained that pioneered the tactics and techniques that would grow naval aviation from a fledgling force of seaplanes to the mighty carrier strike force of World War II. One of the surviving aircraft flown at the Battle of Midway is right here at the National Naval Aviation Museum on board Naval Air Station Pensacola. Here at the National Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola, Florida, we have what is probably the most significant naval aircraft on display anywhere. This SBD Dauntless took off from Midway Atoll that morning of 4 June 1942. Piloting was Marine First Lieutenant Daniel Iverson. In the back seat, the rear gunner, was young Private First Class Wallace Reed. They took off from that atoll in search of the Japanese strike force, and they found it. When they saw the Japanese carrier Hiryu, Lieutenant Iverson turned his plane over into a 70-degree dive, heading straight for the carrier to drop his bomb. His rear gunner, Private First Class Wallace Reed, noticed that there were several zeros on his tail. You can see on the aircraft there's several bullet holes. There's 200 bullet holes, in fact, from those zeros on his tail. There's 2 bullet holes in particular that I want to draw your attention to, and they're just below the gunner's window. That shot Private First Class Reed in the shoulder, and the pilot, Lieutenant Iverson, took a bullet right in front of his neck. It knocked off his throat mic. They dropped their bomb, pulled up, and they managed to dodge away from those zeros and bring the aircraft back to the atoll of Midway. As he was trying to land on Midway, he noticed he only had 1 operable wheel in his main landing gear. So he landed the aircraft with his 1 operable main landing gear and the tail wheel, bringing it to a full stop. The aircraft was badly damaged and too badly damaged to bring it back into full repair, so it was sent up to Lake Michigan, where it was used as a training aircraft on a small paddle steamer there in Lake Michigan for future naval aviators. It unfortunately crashed in Lake Michigan, and that's where the Naval Aviation Museum took it from the floors of Lake Michigan back here to Pensacola, and they restored it into the wonderful condition that it is today. It's a visceral reminder of the sacrifices that our servicemen have been through in order to make sure that our country remains free. Today at Naval Air Station Pensacola, we still train naval aviators. We train the best naval aviators in the world. And one day those naval aviators may be called upon to sacrifice, just as Lieutenant Iverson and Private First Class Wallace did 77 years ago. The Battle of Midway stopped the growth of Japan in the Pacific and put the United States in a position to change the tide of the war. We remember Midway with respect and honor. The people who fought this battle showcased their resiliency, toughness, and bravery when they answered the call to service early in their lives. We will not forget your sacrifice and your service, and the world will never forget how many are free because of you. Thank you on behalf of a very grateful Navy. At Naval Air Station Pensacola, we continue training the best aviators and aviation technicians in the world, who may someday have to answer the call, just as their forebears did.